It's a pity I couldn't
Okay.
show you the surroundings here because I'm literally sitting in the forest. I'm in my living room, but I'm surrounded by the forest because I planted a big forest around my house. So that's and this is very arid. Hey, Mr. Vincent, this is very arid climate zone here.
Yeah, nice to see you.
There you are.
Network is very bad.
Network, yeah. Yeah,
Okay, if it's bad, then you need to turn off your video.
yeah, it's better than yeah.
Yeah,
Then the connection
I'll
is
be
better.
switching off mine. So thank you very much. I think Mr. Roland, we can start. So can I just ask people, we can mute ourselves and mute when we are speaking. Vincent. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
It's more silent. Let me start sharing my screen.
Start sharing your screen. Before you do that, we would just ask a word from Nitin to introduce our speaker to us.
Okay. That's
Okay.
Hi, there's somebody. Robina trying again.
Thank you very much, Roland, and thank you very much, Annie, for taking up this challenging setup for not only SSF Africa, but Syntropic with Roland. And it's well appreciated that Roland has been available and quite keen to assist us, especially in Zambia, with the setup with Annie and there are two other setups with Moto, for example, and Andrew Vincent as well. All I can say is that to all the participants who are right now in this group, in this Zoom meeting, is that we started off with SSF Africa for a couple of years back in the COVID times, and we are an open platform. We need your stories. We need you to come up as your individual setup, your own, and we will give you the web hosting for totally for free, and we can try and write up your articles. Please try and get in touch with Vincent or Annie or Roland, and then we can look into it as to how we could have a bigger setup with your own groups within your own localities eventually in the long run as well. I think I've said too much. Annie, your turn.
Thank you very much. So, yes, so Mr. Roland is with us to help us understand the role of the forest in what we do. He's surrounded by the forest, he told us.
You cannot hear the birds now, but there are a lot of parakeets and parrots in the forest. Normally, they make a lot of noise.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a food-producing forest. A lot of fruit varieties, tropical fruit varieties. But it's a semi-arid climate zone, so I went against all odds because normally here you see only acacia trees and cactus and those things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, now it's completely different. It looks more like a tropical rainforest than a forest of this climate zone. Anyhow, let me start sharing this video. I have a presentation.
Thank you.
First of all, I would love to welcome you all. Maybe it's just an introduction because maybe in the future we'll meet in person as well. I really hope so. But I will tell you about something that I'm really enthusiastic about. You know, I'm really enthusiastic about the subject, syntropic agroforestry. It changed my life. It changed my destiny. It changed my ambition. It changed my everything. And since I found it, you know, I found a mission in my life. You know that we're able to change this world for the better. You know, we can destroy this world very easily. We are very good in that. We've proven that we're able to do a lot of damage. But through this technology, I call it technology, but it's more like a knowledge. This knowledge-based agriculture. We can also restore the planet. And I will show you. This is just a brief introduction. It's not a complete. Don't consider it complete. Okay, to those that suffer from network, Tara, I saw you. We send a video maybe afterwards to you. Let me start sharing the screen. Can you see the presentation?
Yes, we can.
Okay, that's good, you know. So I shall tell you first something about the picture. In the picture, you see me standing next to 3 colleagues of mine, and also to the then Minister of Agriculture. She was very enthusiastic about what we were doing. She's the Minister of Agriculture of Curaçao, the island in the Caribbean Sea where I'm living at the moment for 6 years now, and that's also where I found my destiny, because it's a very semi-arid climate zone with very harsh circumstances. Now, in order to grow anything, we need 4 liters water per square meter a day. So there's a lot of water to grow anything. And now you can see us standing in a food forest, a syntropic food forest that uses only water in once in 20 days. Okay, we irrigate more, but it survives if we couldn't irrigate for 20 days or longer. Somebody else is entering, let me admit. That's part of the promise of this system. You see, there's a lot of food, but there's also a lot of food coming up. The moment you see a lot of papayas, the papayas are gone at the moment. I must be honest, because papayas need full spectrum of sunlight, and now the bananas went too high, and also the other fruit trees are coming up because this is a system of succession. But I will tell you more about that. So Curaçao is an island in the coast of for the coast of Venezuela, Latin America, the Caribbean Sea, and due to the deforestation, the island became an arid climate zone. We only got 550 millimeter rainfall a year, and sometimes we don't have no spot of rain for about 7 months or something. So we really in our island we really depend on irrigation. Without irrigation, we cannot do anything. So this system is making us less dependent of irrigation. When we started out, when we had more vegetables, I'll tell you about it also. We started with a lot of vegetables, but the trees were already there. The papayas were there, the bananas were there, they're however small, and also the fruit trees were there. But then the vegetables, they started as the motor, we call it placenta of the system. In order to grow trees, you need vegetables, and the vegetables finance the forest, the future forest. So this papayas that you see have been growing thanks to the vegetables that have been surrounding, and by giving the vegetables attention, proper care, those papayas grew along with them. And also the bananas, also a lot of fruit trees. You see also a lot of moringa, but there's more biomass. Let me go to the next slide. Remove this. Not listening to me. Is you able to see the presentation? Yeah, okay. Here we are.
Now we are there.
It's just, that's now.
Okay. So a little bit about semantics, you know. It's the word syntropic agroforestry is made of 3 words. It's made of agriculture and forestry. So in other words, it's the way we practice agriculture to the applying of forestry. So in popular terminology, is also known as food forest. So we create a food forest. And I made a typo. Syntropy means accumulation of energy, and also means from simple to complex. I will go deeper into that. It's the opposite of entropy. Entropy means the losing of energy. So the losing of energy is what we see in conventional agriculture. You see that the soil is getting depleted of nutrients, the soil is getting depleted of water, and we have to invest more artificial fertilizer and also pesticides and fungicides and fungicides and herbicides to keep the agriculture going with more depletion of soil as a result. So we're going downwards, we're losing energy. Well, syntropy is an accumulation of energy. Let me go to the next slide. I know. Okay. In order to understand the difference between syntropy and entropy, I make it more clear that entropy means the losing of energy and syntropy means the accumulation of energy. Entropy means that the system is getting more simple, and we see that in modern agriculture. If you grow a monocrop only, then it means that you made a nature that's very diverse and very resilient. You made it very vulnerable and very simple, because nature doesn't grow one crop only. That's a mistake we humans make, and we think that our crops love it also grow, because we think that the other plants are competing with our crops. So it's a simple system versus a complex system. There's a lack of water, so we need irrigation, and in syntropy there's enough water. There's a lack of photosynthesis because we only grow one crop, and in syntropy there's optimized photosynthesis, and photosynthesis is very important. That's the source of all energy. There's a lack of diversity in entropy, and there's very diverse in syntropy. There's a lack of microbacteria and fungi life, and there's an abundance of microbacteria and fungi life. And those are very important because those are running the earth. Have you ever wondered that COVID-19 is also a microbe? The microbe is ruling the world, literally. But also in the soil, our plants completely depend on microbacteria and fungi life. So every time we plow or every time we use a synthetic fertilizer, we kill that microbacteria and fungi life. So we kill the only way that our plants can uptake nutrients, because those little creatures are necessary for our plants to uptake any nutrients that might be in the soil. Sometimes the soil are very, very fertile, but because we're lacking organic material, and by lacking organic material, we're lacking microbacteria and fungi life, the plants cannot even uptake it. Then we come with our chemical fertilizers, and the fertilizers are forced into the plant. Bad policy. There's most in entropy there we find bare soil. You can see that always in modern agriculture. The soil is completely naked. The sun got full access towards the sun, towards the soil. That means the nutrients are burning, water is evaporating, the situation is getting better, worse and worse. I have to let somebody in again. And there's little vegetation. And in syntropy, there's more like a tropical rainforest. There's a lot of diversity, and plants also grow very close to each other. That's also one point of discussion. We think plants don't love to grow together. They will compete. That's what I think. But we say the quite opposite. Plants love to grow together as long as their demands for sunlight are different, and also the time of harvest will be different. So we go into that more. Okay, this is an example how a syntropic farm could look like. So we started in 2020 in the left hand with implementing a syntropic farm. You see that we need irrigation. The hose is already there for drip irrigation, but we also use a lot of mulch. And also you see then the result in 2 years time, and there's a tree row with, now you see mostly bananas, but there are a lot of biomass trees also. And the grass rows, and in between you see vegetables, another grass row, another tree line. Tree line is a little bit hidden behind the calabash tree that's growing in front, but you see the row of crop that needs some support to climb. It's a bean variety. That's how a syntropic farm would look like. And the grass is very important because we believe that biomass equals water. The more biomass, the more water retention. Also, we chop and drop it to feed our beds with mulch, organic material. So let me go to the next slide. Yeah, this is the owner of the farm, the left hand. He's standing between the grass bed and between the tree bed, the tree line. And this is in Curaçao, by the way. And on the right, you see typical example of syntropic farm. Sometimes you don't find a vegetable line in the middle. You find only grass, because grass is really the motor of the system. And they found it by accident, you know, because when Ernst Koch, that's the founder of syntropic agroforestry in Brazil, was starting this system, he found out that grass always would love to come, but later they will disappear. Grass don't love to grow in a forest. But grass, certain grass, this is grass from Tanzania. It's called Tanzania Guinea grass or Mombasa grass. I don't know how they came with the name Mombasa, because I never saw it in Mombasa and Kenya, but Tanzania Guinea grass will be more accurate. And this grass is really what makes the system going and thriving. Very important feature of the farm. You see, it's mostly, the tree lines are mostly dominated by bananas now, but that's only as far as the eye meet, because the fruit trees, the future fruit trees are growing underneath there. And also he's still growing vegetables underneath the tree still. This is a very big farm. I don't have a picture of how much, but you can, 10 times this, you can. Okay, there are 5 principles to syntropic agroforestry. I want to focus on that one this time. You know, Annie and I agreed to do another bigger complete course, and then we go very deep in this, but this now a little bit superficially, because we don't have too much time. It's to get you interested. But let me get you interested. We got the first principle is keep your soil covered always. I will go into that more deeply. Maximization of photosynthesis. I already told you that photosynthesis is the main source of energy. All our food is derived from photosynthesis. Stratification. What that is, I will explain also. Succession. I will explain the management. I will explain. Let me go to the next slide. Okay, keep your soil covered always. We had to shout when the Brazilian teachers came to Curaçao, organized the first syntropic agroforestry course in 2019, and they made us shout, "No bare soil, no bare soil, no bare soil," because that's very important, you know. And why is the soil? Why is it so important that the soil is always covered? It's the most important feature to keep your water into your soil, to keep the soil moist. You know, by applying mulch, you can keep your soils wet for a very long period. The more mulch you apply, the longer the water will stay. And also, there's very interesting research in Malawi. They research, you know, that the soil contains less organic material, lesser than it used to be. It used to be like 60% of what it was now, and then back to less than 20%. And that's the real cause of droughts. Not about there's not enough rain. There's enough rainfall, but the water cannot be taken up by the soil, because even the soil is not covered. The soil becomes very hot when the sun burns on top of the soil. The soil becomes hard. It closes when the cool water falls down on the soil. It cannot be taken up. It just lays there superficially. So sometimes it rains very hard, and then after that you just touch the soil and you find that it's dry underneath. 1 millimeter of rain And then the chance is very big that it starts flooding. So instead of being taken up by the soil, it's been evaporated or been flooded away. And by flooding away, it takes also the nutrients away. That's a bad policy. So it protects against sunburn. And sunburn is what we need to keep the soil cool and also to guarantee the existence of nutrients, because phosphorus, for instance, very important nutrient, major nutrient, is being burned by the sun. And we don't have no natural sources for phosphorus. Of course we have, but we will see later. If your syntropic farm is developing very well, then the mulch starts providing the phosphorus, especially when you get palm trees. It stimulates the water uptake, like I said already, because, if in my place, I'm a very arid climate. When it rains, it never floods every water, and I never see even, water on top of the soil. It immediately is taken up, it's like a sponge. Organic material is act like a sponge, and it becomes a very nutrient dense humus. So far, the first principle. I can go into much more details, but time is limited now. Oh, I went too fast. The next one is maximization of photosynthesis, and the whole knowledge of syntropic agroforestry is based upon the knowledge of how much sunlight each plant needs. And that's very interesting, because plants are either getting too much sunlight or getting too little sunlight. Oh, I have to let two people in. It's very interesting, Plants are either getting too much sunlight or too little sunlight. So when they get too much, that's not optimal. That's not a good policy. And when they get too little, it's not so good policy also. So we need to optimize the photosynthesis. And because the glucose is the base of energy in all food in the world. And everything that's made out of plant material, even if you eat meat, that's second-hand plant material, based upon glucose. Apart from the energy, it also provides oxygen and the cooling down of the atmosphere. Very important, very important. The more plants you got, the more cooling down of the atmosphere. The more cooling down, the more water retention, the more colonization is possible. Very important. So the more plants, the more photosynthesis, the more cooling down of your farm, the more water will be retained. So if you plant like one cabbage and 20 centimeters, the next cabbage, that means that there's a lot of space in between them. So that will be the place in between will be very hot. But those plants are trying their best to cool down, but since they're not joined by their mates, their family, or other crops, they can't do that cooling down. Carbon dioxide is the main cause of global warming, and the heat of sunlight are transformed. So photosynthesis is the process in which sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide has been transformed to energy. The byproducts, oxygen and cooling down. And we recognize four layers of four demands for sunlight. In emergent demand for sunlight, that means that trees and plants, crops also like maize, need 100%, 80 to 100% of sunlight. They cannot tolerate shade. There are plants that have a high demand for sunlight. There's plants that have a medium demand for sunlight, and there are plants that have a low demand for sunlight. So when you know that, you can plant those very close together because they won't compete. For instance, I give you an example. Emergent could be coconut or maize. And the vegetables, high could be mango. So you can plant a mango and a coconut very close together because they won't compete. The demand for sunlight is different. Medium is like orange, or high is in. Let me get the slideshow on again.
Okay, we are back now.
Sorry?
We are back now.
Yeah, okay, good. So everybody seeing the screen again, the slide again?
Yes.
I was talking about that we divert the plants and trees in 4 different dimensions of sunlight. An emergent demand for sunlight, in high demand for sunlight, a medium demand for sunlight, and a low demand for sunlight. It's very interesting because that way we can plant plants very close to each other. Like vegetables, let's give an example of vegetables. We can plant like maize, eggplants, Swiss chard, and like cucumbers. We can plant them very close together because their demand for sunlight is different. They won't compete with each other. To the contrary, they will help each other. And especially when the time of harvest is also different. But I will go to that in another principle. Yeah, let me continue. And the stratification is the technology to achieve this maximization of photosynthesis. Oh, sorry, I forgot something very important to show. Oh. To the right, you see a leaf bricks chart, and that's how you can measure the effects of photosynthesis. Because, and that's very interesting, we say that we can grow systems without pests. So in a syntropic system, over time you won't find pests anymore. You won't find weeds and you won't find pests. That's most of the work of a normal farmer, an average farmer, and there's most of the worries. Except for one, there's the most worries are always diseases. But to our understanding, you can measure with a bricks chart meter. You can measure the amount of glucoses. The glucose is the end product of photosynthesis. You can measure it. The more glucoses, the less chance you find pests. So, for instance, you know the aphids, if the glucoses is going up from 8, where they can still digest the glucoses, if it goes up to 9, they will die by trying to digest the same glucoses. So it literally kills plants. But the problem is we give plants too much sunlight or too little sunlight, you know. So mostly too much. So if, for instance, if cucumber is growing a full spectrum of sunlight, or let me say lime tree is growing a full spectrum of sunlight, it gets too much sunlight, so the photosynthesis, the glucose is not optimal. So then those diseases come to take those plants out, because we're to understanding it's like a body, you know, it's like a heart of a, if you got some heart cells that are not operating very well, they got to taken out to benefit the whole body as a whole. So plants that are diseased and not functioning optimal get attacked by pests. And we believe that those pests are invited by the plants themselves. So if you see pests, we don't worry, we just question ourselves what might be the reason for it. So if you go up in the chart, the higher the amount of sugar, the different insects might take up your plants. But until we reach the amount of 12, and still the grasshoppers, which we consider as very damaging pests, because we think they can always eat our crops. But if you go up 14, 15, even the grasshoppers will die trying to eat your crops. So very important knowledge. That photosynthesis, the amount of photosynthesis your plants can build up. Now I can go to the next one. And stratification is a technology that we use to optimize the photosynthesis. So, it's very sensitive to my screen. I make a drawing, and as you can see two coconut trees. They emerge. They need full spectrum of sunlight, so we plant them on the sides. Don't plant them too close. Then you get high, got about 4 high trees. This is 10 meters, so that means that 40% of the farm can be taken up by high plants, plants with high demand of sunlight. That's what we call stratification. 60% of medium, like the orange tree, like I said before. And in case of you can grow coffee in your climate zone, you could be having 80% of coffee because they are low, according to our understanding. The same with vegetables. Those two coconut trees, you can change 10 meters in 1 meter. And we have two corns, 2 maize. And we got like 4 eggplants in the between. We got like 6 Swiss chard, and like the bottom will be completely covered with cucumbers or watermelon or something like that. So that's how we can optimize the maximization of photosynthesis. Now let me do a calculation. So if that means that 80%, oh sorry, I tried to get somebody in and then 80% of the farm can be obtained by low strata. This means 80% of photosynthesis you already got. You're not losing it, because normally you lose the effectivity of the photosynthesis by putting it in full spectrum of sunlight. If you grow coffee in full sunlight, you get pests, you get diseases, you have to use fertilizer, you have to use pesticides. But if you grow coffee in the shade, you won't need that, because you don't lose on your photosynthesis. It's optimized photosynthesis amount they get. So let's calculate 80% of low. Then we get 60% of medium. That's 140%. Then you get 40% of high. That's already 180%. And then you get 20% of the emergent demand for sunlight. That means that you reach 200% of photosynthesis optimal maximization. It can never be more than 100%. It will mostly be less than 100%. So that's how we achieve this maximization of photosynthesis. It's very key to the understanding of syntropic agroforestry. That's why we grow those crops together. And the next slide, I already showed it. You can see how dense those crops grow, and they were all planted at the same time. And that brings us to the next principle, because all those plants you see, they're growing very densely. They planted at the same time. You see a soursop tree in the middle. There's lime trees. There's papaya, pawpaw. There's beans. There's peanuts, groundnuts there, and there are more varieties of vegetables. There's even corn there. Corn is still small, but they will pop up. Oh no, the corn has already been taken out here. So you see how densely those plants grow and how healthy those plants look, because they don't look like they're competing. They look like they're healthy. They enjoy their company because they each their own amount of sunlight. So the beans are profiting from the shade that the papaya provides. The young trees, and the trees are still young, they provide profit from the shade that the papaya and other crops are giving them, because young trees are very vulnerable. When they're big, they might take much more sunlight than the young. And to our understanding, that's a part of nature. Nature is always working with succession. And I gave an example. This example is already there. Oh, so I have to remove this. Oh no. Very sensitive different screen. So in the case of the system we set up with the Brazilian teachers, we planted radishes, we planted cucumbers, we planted melon, and we did it for a purpose. We planted okra, we planted maize, we planted tomatoes, we planted eggplants, we planted cassava, we planted bananas, we planted fruits and timber on the very same spot, people. So after 3-4 weeks, we started to harvest the radishes. When they took the radishes out, then the cucumbers could take up their place, and they start producing after 5 weeks. But the seeds were planted the same day, remember. So we first started to make money with radishes, then we start to make money with cucumbers. When the cucumbers are getting a little bit less harvest, then the melons are starting to produce. In the meantime, when the melons are producing, the okra grew out of it, and the maize grew also on top of them. because the melons and the cucumbers are growing flat. They're like covering the soil, and while the okra and the maize were popping up. So when the okra produced for quite some weeks, then the maize went out, and then the tomatoes started producing, and the eggplants started producing for months. And after that, the cassava is getting ready. So we took the cassava out. After the cassava is taken out, then the papaya start producing, bananas start producing for a couple of years until the fruit trees reach maturity. They start producing. So you got there's always something to harvest in the process of planting fruit trees. Normally, when you plant a fruit tree, and if it's not layered, you wait for years before your fruit trees plant, before your fruit trees produce anything. You wait for years. But now you harvest vegetables in the process of growing fruit trees. That's an economical feature you cannot ignore. Now you know it, you cannot unsee it anymore. That's what I always tell people. If you know this, how it works, you will be unwise if you're still practicing monocropping, because that's what we mostly do. I love Uganda, it's a very beautiful place, but I saw the bananas apart from the coffee, the timber trees apart from the bananas, and the timber trees apart from the coffee. So if you fold those together, you can plant your bananas, because bananas need medium high demand of sunlight, so they can grow underneath your timbers. Now the coffee, they are low, but they can grow underneath your bananas. You can even plant some other fruit trees in between. So you can really 4, 5, 6 times have more harvests on the same spot if you create a food forest instead of a plantation. That's the real benefit of it. Then I go to the next slide, the last slide. And then we got some time for Q&A. Management is mostly the pruning. And why do we prune? You see me with a motor saw, chainsaw. And pruning here acacia trees. Acacia trees we use as a biomass tree. They're already growing there, and we got a fruit tree next to it. So pruning creates a growth impulse, and the growth impulse is not only for the tree or the plant that we prune, but for all the plants in the system. So if you want that, in this case, you see tamarind tree next to the acacia tree. When I prune the acacia tree, it won't not only get more sunlight, but also more growth impulse. Also, we accelerate the natural succession in nature, because those acacia trees take a long time normally before they get succeeded by different other trees. But by pruning them, I accelerate the system but nature take maybe hundreds of years to reach a certain syntropy. But we can do it in a few years because we prune. We destroy organized destruction. Benefit the succession of nature. We chop and drop also the mulch, because anytime everything we prune, we put on the soil, so we keep the soil covered by that, and we keep on feeding the soil with it also. And last but not least, we keep the stratas of the layers in the forest, according to the demand of sunlight. For instance, if there's a tree, I gave you a very clear example also concerning the pest. One day I found that my papayas were developing a disease. Then I observed the situation. I saw that the moringa tree was covering the papaya. And papaya needs full spectrum of sunlight. But there I found the reason for the disease. And also the soil around the papaya was not completely covered anymore. So he was losing energy there. There was a situation of entropy going on, not syntropy, but entropy. He was losing energy because of the soil not being covered. So what I did is to I pruned the moringa and used the material to cover the soil around the papaya. Next day the disease was gone, the pest was gone. There was no pest to be found anymore. One day, one simple measurement, one simple management tool used. pruning. So I kept the stratus intact because the papaya needs to be on top of everything. That's why we only grow temporarily papayas, because sooner or later your fruit trees will be bigger than the papayas, and then we take the papayas out. So they gave us a lot of money, a lot of harvest in between while we're waiting for our fruit trees to produce. So this is a short, very short introduction. It's already longer than we intended to, because we only intended to do 50 minutes. So that's your bonus here for today. Thanks for joining me. If you got some questions, let's do it.
Thank you very much.
You're
Oh, that's
welcome.
wonderful. Thank you very, very much. Indeed. Let's show our reactions. I think you can see the reaction button. What have you been hearing? How are you feeling now? So
I see a thumb up.
yeah.
Let me stop the screening of this.
Yeah, let's continue. And Jessica has a question.
Yeah.
So we can
Please come
start
forward.
with
Hello.
Malawi, wow, from Malawi.
Thank you for the wonderful. Yes, mine is just. I think I did get you on the last part when we were talking about pruning, and how is it related to the purpose as well as the pests that were there. I didn't get. I think my
Okay, let me repeat that. Let me repeat that.
network was tripping, so I just wanted you to just clarify on that one.
Yeah. Okay. I went out to see I went out in my forest and I observed that my papaya was developing a disease. There was a pest in it. You know, there's a certain pest that's a slimy. It got a slimy character underneath the leaves. Then the leaves turn yellow and the plants are dying off. But then I observed the situation. I saw that the moringa tree was growing higher than the papaya, so the papaya was shaded a bit. And papaya is an emergent tree. It needs 100% of sunlight. So because of the shade, the papaya was not getting its maximized photosynthesis anymore. So he was suffering from too little photosynthesis. That means that a pest could attack him now. So by pruning the moringa tree, I opened the space again for him to get the full access to sunlight. And also by adding the pruned material, the leaves and the branches around the papaya, I was protecting the soil also against the losing of energy, the losing of water, the losing of nutrients, losing of microbacterial life. You understand it? It's clear to you now?
Yeah.
It's a very practical example.
Yes. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, in your presentation, you also mentioned about a case study or some trials here in Malawi. So I just wanted to find out specifically where and what were the studies.
Sorry, I didn't understand the major part, not the major part, the essential part of your question. And you were mentioning something, and I didn't understand it. Didn't hear it.
Okay. I was saying you I hear, if I can correct you I heard you say about some studies in Malawi that have been conducted on the same. Yes, so I wanted to find out specifically where in Malawi, as well as what was it specifically the case studies that were being studied here.
Okay, so I'm not I don't know the exact data of it, but I can name a guy that is with the same name of me, Roland. Roland Bunch is working in Malawi. He did a lot of work, and he made a publication where you can find those data. I don't recall the name of his. He wrote books about it. If you Google Roland Bunch like a bunch of bananas, you will find his publications. Roland Bunch. He's working to Malawi. He's working to add trees in the maize fields, and also cover crops.
Okay, fine. Now I understand. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Always.
Thank you. So we go to Alex from Uganda. Yes, Alex, go ahead.
Hello. It was such an inspiring lesson to me. I've learned quite a lot of things. Thank you, Roland, for that. I've never thought of it like growing so many crops together. I looked at it as like.
If you can try to be near your microphone.
Yeah, because I didn't hear it neither.
Oh, you get me now?
Yeah, continue.
Hello?
Hello,
Yes, we
Alex.
can hear
We
you
hear the
now.
hello, but we didn't.
Okay, you get me clearly now. I was like, thank you, Ron, for that. It has been inspiring and I've learned a lot. As for now, I never thought that growing so many crops together was of a benefit. I thought of it as being overcrowding the crops. So, could you please inspire me more about it? How, which category of crops can we grow together such that we can maximize space and output? Thank you.
I didn't understand the question. Any did you hear it? Maybe otherwise.
Yeah,
you
difficult to hear you. Can put your
question in
something
the
in the
box,
chat.
chat box. Please do it. Then if you finish writing your question in the chat box, then I will read it and I will answer it.
Yes.
Read, Alex. Sorry, because
It's okay.
okay. Please write it down. Okay, another question.
Thank
Next
you.
one.
Yes, this is just in the chat there from Jackson saying thank you for introduction. Maximizing photosynthesis is very interesting. We usually skip it.
Yeah.
We'll keep a close eye on it.
And we just only touch this the surface of it. You know, this is a very interesting topic.
Yes, yes. And the great kickoff syntropic presentation, Roland and Ubuntu. So that's from Nitin. Yes, and we are encouraged that those who are going to be following the course, it will be, maybe Roland, you should clarify how many hours people were asking. So we want to put 3 hours of inputs
In total, you know,
every day.
okay. Let me put it this way, because there's some misunderstanding. I can talk for 3 hours, but you know, it will be more interesting if we got critical questions. Then we can make it
Yes.
easily 6 hours.
Okay.
So that's the thing, you know. When I can do it in 3 hours, but then it's only monologue. You know, I won't be talking only. You will be listening. But if you as soon as you start interact with me, then it will be more interesting also, because then maybe your thought way of thinking will help others also to get a more deeper insight in the material.
Yes.
So I encourage always people to do, but you know, if for me it's only 3 hours and I can explain everything.
Yes.
But
all right.
Yeah, it depends on the listening ear. And I got also an accent. So maybe you said, "Hey, Roland, what did you say? I didn't follow you." Then we can.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So.
Yes, well, Vincent, you can go ahead. Mr. Andrew, unmute yourself and you can go ahead with your question. Vincent, your hand is up. Okay, while we are waiting for him to unmute, he says, Claudia says, this was an interesting presentation. Are you about to share the recordings of what some of us have missed? Yes, indeed, it will be shared if you've put your email address, and we have to remember to actually take.
Annie, I was thinking also maybe it will be an option also to put it on YouTube so that they can find it there.
Okay. Yes, you can share with us.
So that's also
You can
You're
unmute
making noise.
Antigones there. She's just joining.
yeah, okay. You know, but if you want to see more practical information, the way we do it in the practice, because now I showed only a few pictures, I also got a video channel, YouTube. It's called my name, Roland van Reenen, Forest Farmer. So you can find it.
Can you type it in the chat?
Yeah, I will type it. Let me type it.
Vincent, can you hear us? Yes, Nathan, please go ahead.
Yeah, Annie, I was just thinking, if you can get the links and the YouTube videos onto an article on SSF Africa, so that everybody has a direct link to it. So that would be, I think, a very good a method of people accessing it directly.
I see a very interesting question also about eucalyptus.
Yes, yes.
You know, eucalyptus is used. You know, eucalyptus got a bad name. It's a very good timber wood, a very good hardwood. They grow very fast, but they drying out landscape. But in syntropic agroforestry, they were quite the opposite. They feed the others with water, and the secret is the pruning, the management. If you keep the eucalyptus pruned, then they start feeding the others with water. They act as deep wells. So Ernst Gotch, he literally uses eucalyptus to plant it beside bananas, to let them feed the bananas. So they can very well be integrated, but you should manage them, otherwise they will dry out your farm. Very good question.
Yes, indeed, because they also change the soil.
Yeah.
So soil changes to acidic. That was another one I wanted to find out, because there was a lady who has a food forest in Zambia, in Lusaka. And she found out that where she was growing a moringa tree, nothing else would grow under that tree.
Ah, okay. Okay, that is a complete different subject, but it's not because of the moringa, it's not because of the what the moringa produces, because moringa can really feed the soil. It's because maybe the age difference. If the moringa tree is already like quite a few years old, there's also we like to grow. We call it synchronization. That's a very important aspect also of syntropic agroforestry. If you want to grow anything underneath all the trees, you have to make them young again. And how can you make them young again? You need to prune them, because an old tree doesn't need too much water anymore, doesn't need too much nutrients anymore. It's kind of sleeping. You can even develop senescence. But as soon as you prune them, they rush for water, they rush for nutrients. The same as your plants that you want to plant underneath them or close to them. That's why we always, if we want to introduce something in your farm, again, in an existing farm, you need to prune the rest. So that's like an orchestra, because the moringa tree is playing off key, and the others are playing on different notes. So you have to make sure that they play on the same key again to make the music better, make the music enjoyable.
That's right. That's good. It's good to know this information. So yes, so thank you very much for those who have so the YouTube channel Roland Van, the information has been given there.
You find a lot of videos about implementation of farms. So if you want to be curious, if you are curious how we do it, you can find it there. It's mostly in images. So you see also, you get also some background information, but you see farms in Uganda for the people in Uganda here. I did in Akivale refugee camp. I did one, and I did one, a very nice one in Lira. That's very nice still, and also quite a big one in Kitkum.
Yes, I can see that we are remaining around with 6 minutes or so.
Yeah,
There are two, can we identify the use of microbes using our eyes, like colors? I was told yellow patches on maize cobs is good microbes. And also from Vincent is, can we attach syntropic into carbon sinking?
yeah, of course. That's one I can fully say yeah, because you can even, you know, that's the one thing of the future, the carbon sequestration. So farmers can even earn money by planting trees, but not only by planting trees, it's also by the amount of organic material, the biomass. Biomass is also very good to sequestrate carbon. So that's, you know, we are like I think the syntropic farmers are like the biggest carbon transformers. Let's put it because we transform it. The carbon is energy.
Mhm.
So we make from the problem a solution. But the question is about the microbes. I couldn't hear it completely.
Can we identify the useful microbes using our eyes, like colors?
I don't get the
Like when we
question.
see, yeah, when he was taught that yellow patches on maize cobs is good microbes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that now you're talking about pests more like. But you know, the thing is, the system should be balanced. And now we can deal again with the definition of syntropy. You know, if there's something lacking for your maize, then the maize can develop a disease. So it could be lack of sunlight, could be lacking of nutrients, could be lack of water. Could be one of those. But
All right.
so it's another to us, you know, for us to find out what is lacking, we should investigate. But the thing is, if you create a system like we do, then mostly the system will take care of of its population. So that's we don't watch diseases too much. We don't watch pests. We don't watch weeds. We watch the system, because if the system is developing good, if there's an increasing of energy, then the pests will disappear, the diseases will disappear, the weeds will disappear. That's very nice to see. So, but in the initial stage, because we have to be realistic and we have to be honest also, in the initial stage there can be pests, of course, because the system is not accumulating enough energy yet. The promise is, if your system is accumulating a lot of energy, the pests will disappear, because pests are not common in a forest. Weeds are not common in a forest. Only if you want to grow plants that need full spectrum of sunlight in the forest, that they will suffer. They will be eaten by pests. So it's a complete.
Thank you very much, Roland.
Yes.
Can I just, because we have 2 minutes or so remaining?
Yeah.
Yes. So for the website that we are using is ssfafrica.com. Please do remember to check so that we can access most of our stories there. And those who are interested in doing the workshop, it will take place on the 19th to 21st of April. So the 3rd week of April, and we'll circulate again on the website so that you can be on the same pace with us. So the registration of your workshop, you register with Ubuntu, all that is on, it's going to be on the website as well. So
And
thank you, Uganda.
And hopefully I will be coming to Malawi soon. Not soon, but I'm talking with an organization that wants to do create a syntropic agroforestry farm for deaf people in Malawi. And since I'm already there, then we might do also practical on hands-on course.
There you are, Jasaka. So Malawi, there we go. And
Yes. We'll be
Zambia,
looking
sorry,
forward
Zambia.
Zambia.
to seeing you and meeting you, Roland. My bad.
You're our neighbor, you can cross over to Zambia.
Yes.
Yeah, you should only find the right excuse for me to come.
So thank you. We'll meet you again online, and it's very interesting. I think you can see that it's important to understand the science of trees and
you.
the science of photosynthesis, so that we can grow things properly, you know. So
Yeah,
thank you again.
supported by
for-
nature.
Yes, for attending, and thank you very much. So we'll send the information on the website, please. And some of you, I know you, so automatically will share the email of the presentation. Yes.
Yeah. The
So
presentation
anyway,
will take my experience taught me that it will take quite some time for the presentation to record, to process the video. So I don't think, maybe it will be later in the day, it will be already night in your region that I'm able to send it. So please be patient. It's in the back of my mind.
thank you, bye.
Okay, bye bye. Nice to meet you guys.
Thank you.